Hey guys, it's Mel. Welcome to my channel. So I thought I'd film another vlog, but it's probably going to be over the course of about 3 weeks because there's quite a few bookish type of things that are happening in January, which I thought you guys might be interested to see. So this is just the introductory hello and welcome to my vlog. And I hope that you like what I am showing you. Here I am down at my local waterfront. I've just had some food and I have my coffee and I'm going to sit and read some more of The Night Circus. I have got about 80 pages left of the part 3 and I really want to get part 3 read today, if not more, but definitely want to finish part 3 today. So yeah, I'm going to sit here and read. It's Saturday morning and I'm just about to head off into a local cinema to go and see Little Women for part of my Book Into Film Club. So thought that I would take you guys along and show you what we do. Alright, I'm getting in the car, so I'll talk to you later. Hello again, this is my friend Michelle and we've just seen Little Women and I just thought Michelle might like to tell us what she thought of it.
It was good. It was good. I have to say, I think the book is definitely better than the movie. Don't want to give anything away, but it was entertaining and yeah, but the book was better.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Bye.
We're all sitting and having some coffee and some cake and discussing the movie. So I'm just going to introduce everyone to the internet. So give me a second. So here is everybody who's in my Book Into Film Club. Alright, go.
Hi, I'm Heather and we've just enjoyed Little Women. I really liked the movie. There's one thing that I didn't like about it was they moved around too much, swapping from different times. I thought it would have been a bit better if it was linear. But apart from that, I really liked it. It made me cry.
Thanks, Mum. Made me cry too. We just finished having our Book Into Film Club meeting and I thought that I would actually give you a little bit of a tour of the cinema that we were just in. I'm not 100% sure of the chronology of this, but basically it started its life as a very small little independent cinema. I think there was only 2 actual cinemas, screens, and then it just started getting quite popular. Then they always offered wine and coffee, but then they built a cafe on the back and they added a few extra cinemas, and they also built a bookstore that was attached to the cinema, and then it just grew from there and they added a new level and extra cinemas, and they've since moved the bookstore and bought out the building next door, and they built the bookstore in there, and then they've turned the old bookstore into a wine bar, and they've now got a rooftop cinema, and the coffee shop area keeps getting bigger. So it's just, I really think that's fantastic because it's a local independent cinema and they show a lot of sort of indie movies. They also show, you know, the big blockbusters of course as well, but they show a lot of independent cinema, and it makes me feel really happy that something that's independent and a little bit, you know, not in the mainstream is doing so well. So I thought that I would give you a tour of that. So here goes. So I'm just out the back and we're looking in through the window. So that's just, you can see the reflection of the car park out the back, but then you can also sort of see the coffee shop on the inside. So I'll just take you into the cafe. Here's the cafe. So come out into the cinema proper, and that's the counter. And the wine bar has just opened. So this used to be the bookstore. I think it's pretty cool. So they bought this as the bookstore. It's an extra building to the side that they made into the bookstore, and then they converted that. And then we have cinemas in here. And this is the new bookstore. It has its own entrance, and then also has the entrance into the cinema.
He was quite tall. Andy's a big American. He's a big tall bloke.
Kids section. Middle grade. Penguin Classics. Some of the Penguin cloth bound classics. Hello again, lovelies. It is 10 to 4 on Monday afternoon, and I wanted to have a little bit of a chat with you about how I'm going with my two buddy reads for the first part of the year. So, with Hayley, I am reading The Cruel Prince by Harley Black. I think it's quite good. It's quite well written. It is young adult fantasy, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but it is relatively simple writing, so it probably won't be hard to get through. And then with my two friends, Max and Rachel, we are reading The Power by Naomi Alderman, which is just crazy. I'm really enjoying it, but it wasn't what I expected. I'm not really sure what I expected, but yeah, it's kind of nuts. So anyway, we decided originally that we were going to do one chapter a week, just because we're all quite busy, but we have all three of us read further on because we're not very good at sticking to schedules when it comes to books. We tend to be the kind of people who, if we're really liking something, we just keep reading. So we've been texting each other backwards and forwards and sort of saying, where did you get to? Oh no. So we decided to actually read the first part, which is about 4 chapters, I think, before we have a chat about that. So those two books are going really well. I'm enjoying both of them. It is kind of weird so far to stick to a schedule. Like I said, I have tended usually in the past to read one book at a time, although I'm changing that quite a bit now that I've started doing the BookTube channel and watching BookTube, and I've started reading more than one book at once. Not all the time, but quite a bit, and I'm quite enjoying that. It's school holidays at the moment, so I'm not working, so doing the buddy reads is really cool, and it's really great to have someone to talk to about things immediately, but it does mean that I'm having to fill in the time when I'm not reading one of those 2 books. Anyway, I hope that you're having a great day, whatever day it is, and whatever you're doing, and I'll check in with you on this vlog a little bit later. Hey, so it is Saturday the 11th, and we are having a bit of a craft-noon, and we are making some things for Rowan and my wedding coming up soon, and we're actually making some stuff out of books. So we're making book piles for decorations, and we are making the bouquet out of pieces of Sense and Sensibility. So I went and bought a secondhand copy of Sense and Sensibility so that we can make the bouquet. So I am going to show us doing that. So here we go. Hi again. Well, it's been a little while since I last filmed anything. Mostly because poor Rowan has actually been really sick. I tend not to film when Rowan's here, mostly because I don't want him to feel like he can't make noise or do things when I'm filming in the lounge room, which is where I tend to film. And when you're sick, you really don't want to have to feel like you have to be careful of how much noise you make or anything like that. So, the point being, I haven't filmed in this week. So if you'll excuse me, I just want to spend a couple of minutes talking about planning this wedding experience. It is still a bookish vlog, but the theme of our wedding even is books, so I kind of feel like that counts. And as you probably could imagine, this wedding is taking up a lot of my brain space lately, which is interesting because we're not really doing a huge giant thing. We have got quite a few people who are attending, but we're just going to have a casual wedding in the garden, pizza, donuts instead of a cake. It's going to be very chilled out. Even though we have tried to keep it fairly casual and simple, there's still been a lot of stuff that we've needed to organise, and I feel like I've had it in my head this last couple of weeks, just constantly going through all the things that we need to do and making sure that I've got everything on the list and everything is accounted for. We're actually not catering it ourselves. We were going to, but then we decided to hire caterers, but we're organising the bar ourselves and all of that sort of thing. I've just been thinking last day or so about the fact that because we're making it as simple as we can and it's still taking up so much of my mental energy, I just can't imagine trying to organise a bigger thing. And so I've sort of started to realise how much work that was for all of my friends who did do those things. Puts a different perspective on things. Anyway, that's kind of where I'm at the moment. I also just want to show you guys my bouquet because I adore it. My friend Kate made these, and I'm so incredibly grateful to her for making this beautiful bouquet. She's even put the spine of the book as where I'm going to hold it. Anyway, that was kind of bookish, right? Now I want to catch you up on some of the reading that I've been doing this last week. When I last talked to you guys, I was in the middle of reading The Cruel Prince and also in the middle of reading The Power by Naomi Alderman. So I have been reading both of those on my e-reader just here, and I am up to chapter 28 of The Cruel Prince and about halfway through The Power. So The Cruel Prince, first of all, I am really enjoying it. I knew that there was a little bit of a hate to love romance in there, which I'm not usually that much of a fan of. I tend to find that oftentimes, I'm not saying all the time by any means, but oftentimes when there's a hate to love romance, either the two parties don't like each other or the woman doesn't like the man, and then she thinks he hates her, and then at some point she figures out that he doesn't and that he's in love with her, and then she immediately just forgets all about all the reasons why she didn't like him, and she says, oh well, and falls in love with him again. And that really annoys me because I feel like you usually have a reason for disliking someone, and yes, they could be based off of something that isn't true or a misconception or whatever, and you could certainly learn to love someone as you get to know them even though you didn't like them to begin with. The idea that all it takes is for you to learn that the other person loves you, for you to forget all of the reasons you didn't like them in the first place, that annoys me. And I was a bit worried about that in The Cruel Prince, but I liked what was happening anyway in the story. There was a few things in there that I wasn't expecting, and I thought really added to the story. So I've gotten up to the part where the two that I knew would get together have sort of had a bit of a something between them, but I'm really liking that so far because it's not just the main character Jude finding out that person feels something for her and then suddenly forgetting everything and going, oh well, in that case I'm in love with you, and she's actually using his feelings for her against him, which is kind of fun. So I don't really know where it's going to go, but I'm really enjoying that aspect of it. It's quite simplistic, but it is YA, and sometimes simplistic is quite enjoyable. It's very easy to read, but I think it's really well written, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. The Power by Naomi Alderman is absolutely amazing. She's really thought about not just what would happen to the world or to society if women suddenly had this power to electrocute, which is what happens, but she's thought about how would they use it, what would they do, would they create different tools to use it, would they need to be taught how to use it, what would it mean for them as individuals as well as for society. And I really like at the moment that there's some stuff that happens in the story that it's not like women take over and suddenly everything's great. There is acknowledgement that people in general can be both good and bad, and so if women took over, it wouldn't automatically mean that everything that is bad in the world stopped. So there are incidents where the women do really awful things to each other and to the men, and as horrible as that is, I really like that because I think it's a lot more realistic. Basically, the book is set up so that we are reading a history about something that happened 2,000 or so years ago. And so they have excerpts from archaeological finds and Twitter excerpts from the time and historical works of non-fiction about the time period that the book is about, exploring that and showing different weapons that were created to use the power, and I find that really interesting. I feel like that really grounds the story, and I'm really, really enjoying that. So yeah, that's another thing that I'm really liking. I like doing buddy reads. I like being able to chat with the person or the people that I'm buddy reading about what I'm reading and what's going on. So I think I've got about 4 chapters to go in The Cruel Prince, and Hayley and I are reading 2 chapters a day at the moment, although last weekend we did read, I think, about 5 chapters in one day because we were both messaging each other and sort of saying, oh my gosh, what happened, and let's read another bit, and so on, which was really cool. So those are those 2 books that I'm buddy reading. And then I actually ordered Carry On from the library, and it came in, so I read it. So basically I picked it up and started reading it and didn't put it down for basically another sort of 2 days. I really, really, really enjoyed this book. I understand that this is supposed to be the original book that the main character in Fangirl by Rowell as well, was writing fan fiction about. So now I feel like I need to read Fangirl as well as Wayward Son. When I first started reading it, I was finding it a little bit odd to read because it reads very much like fan fiction of Harry Potter, and a lot of the stuff in there reads like it's having a go taking the mickey out of Harry Potter, but it just was kind of a bit odd to read because I knew that it wasn't meant to be fan fiction, but it definitely read like fan fiction. But I just think Rainbow Rowell is a fantastic author, and I think even though she's writing something that is very obviously very heavily influenced by Harry Potter, I feel that she manages to write the story and write the characters in a way that even though you know that, you get invested in the characters and in the story anyway. I really like the characters of Simon and Baz. Having said what I said about Hate to Love, this is definitely a hate to love story, but I think it actually does work really well in this instance, and I really liked it. I definitely recommend that you pick it up. Very, very easy to read, very easy to continue reading. I now would like to go and get Wayward Son at some point. I have also been reading this book, Finding Eliza, Power and Colonial Storytelling by Larissa Behrendt. So this is a non-fiction book and it's really interesting. It's really well written. So it's about a woman, Eliza Fraser, who in 1836 was shipwrecked on an island off the coast of northern Queensland. And she came into contact with an Aboriginal group of people when she eventually got taken back to white society. The story that she told was about these horrific Aboriginals who mistreated her and tried to sexually assault her and starved her and tortured her, and it was all horrible. And Larissa Behrendt is looking into the way that colonial storytelling sets up Aboriginal people as bad and white people as good, and how that has influenced the way that we have approached Aboriginal people basically since then, and the way that it contributes to the racial divide that still exists in Australia. Yeah, it's really interesting. Also this week I have participated in Faye from Mystery Date with the Book's Narnia read-along that she's doing this month, so I will link her video where she talks about that in the description below. So I decided that I couldn't read every single of the Narnia Chronicles, which is what she's doing, but I decided that I would like to reread The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. I'm very familiar with The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. It was a book that was read to me when I was a child by my parents and that I later read as I got older. So it was pretty easygoing, and yeah, I really enjoyed my reread. It was really fun, made me very nostalgic. I'll check in with you again before I upload. So that's it for now. Hello again. I just filmed a whole bunch of thoughts and then discovered that my mic was off. That's annoying. Oh well. So anyway, it is Friday the 24th of January, and I'm going to wrap up this vlog now because I'm going to upload it tomorrow. So first of all, I just want to talk again about my opinions that I shared with you about young adult fiction. I did talk about the fact that I thought that The Cruel Prince, being young adult, that it would be quite simple and easy to read, which I did find that it was relatively simply written and concise and easy to read. I do find that young adult fiction is, in style, relatively straightforward and simple, and therefore quite easy to read a lot of the time. This is because obviously young adult fiction is aimed at people who are sort of roughly 15 to 20 years old, and I don't in any way think that therefore it means that it is simple in terms of topic. It can be very hard-hitting, it can deal with a lot of fairly full-on topics and very mentally and emotionally difficult. So it's not the content that I necessarily think is simple, but I often find the writing style is a lot more concise and straightforward and simple, and usually less complex than the writing style of some adult fiction, particularly high adult fantasy. But yeah, having said that, it doesn't necessarily mean that young adult can't also be complex in style, or of course, as I said, in content. So it just was simply meaning to say that I find it relatively easy to read and to read relatively quickly. The Cruel Prince I found to be a perfect example of that. I just wanted to make sure that it was understood what I meant by my comments about young adult fiction. Anyway, on to the books that I've been reading. So you may have guessed that I did finish The Cruel Prince. I really enjoyed it. It had an ending that I did not expect, that I thought was really fantastic ending. I really like the character Jude. I think that she has become a really tough and really driven and really ruthless character, and I really like that about her character. I think that she is really well portrayed, and I really like Jude, and I really like The Cruel Prince. So Haley and I have decided that we are going to buddy read The Wicked King, and we will start that next week, so I'm excited for that. In my 1,000 pages to be read video that I posted on Monday, you would have seen that I am partaking in that readathon, and that I had planned to start a couple of books as part of the start a book prompt. So the first one that I have started now is Esme's Wish by Elizabeth Foster. Esme's Wish is a middle grade portal fantasy novel. about a young girl called Esme. She's probably about 15 in the story, and her father has just remarried after her mother has been missing for a number of years, presumed dead, and she has just discovered that her mother was actually, believed herself to actually be adventuring to another world, and Esme then does adventure to another world herself and stumbles across a city called Esperance, and a couple of young teenagers around her age, Daniel and Lillian, I think. Yeah, so it's another world filled with magic and dragons and mystery, and I'm really enjoying the story so far. I think that it's very nicely written. I really like the characters, and yeah, it's just a really great time so far. I'm about a third of the way through, I think, roughly. I've also started listening to Daisy Jones and the Six on Audible. So I had heard from various different YouTube, booktube creators that Daisy Jones and the Six was best listened to on Audible or audiobook because it's a full cast of characters, and because the book is written like a series of interviews with the band members of the Six and with Daisy Jones, and so far I'm really enjoying that. I think that the actors who play the various different roles have done a really great job. I particularly like Jennifer Beals as Daisy Jones. I think she is a perfect fit for that character, so I'm really enjoying that. I'm probably about a third of the way, about a quarter of the way through that as well, so that's going really well. I am also still reading Eliza, Finding Eliza, and I read another chapter this morning. It's great. It's really well written. It's really interesting. It's very difficult to read in some ways, mostly because as a white Australian, there's a lot of stuff that I am not aware of in terms of our history and in terms of our history, or particularly regarding relationships between white Australians and Aboriginal Australians have been, particularly in regards to more modern history. I think there's an assumption within white Australian society in general that all of the things that have happened as a result of colonisation really happened 200 years ago, but that's not at all the case. A lot of the policies were still active 20, 30 years ago. So particularly the stolen generation, the policy of taking Aboriginal children from their families and placing them in white families, is still something that people are dealing with now. So there are still people who were taken from their families who are 50 years old now. So it's certainly a thing that seems to be considered that it's 200 years ago, Aboriginal people need to get over it. Well, it wasn't 200 years ago. It affects people's lives today. And even if it was 200 years ago, colonisation and the atrocities that we perpetuated against Aboriginal Australian people is still going to affect people from 200 years from when it occurred. There are systemic problems due to racism and due to colonisation and due to all of those policies and attitudes towards Aboriginal Australians that still have effect today, even if they aren't necessarily policies of the day. They still have an effect today in the way white society view Aboriginal Australians and act towards Aboriginal Australians. It's really awful to be reminded of that. Obviously, as a white Australian person, it's sort of easy to say that because I am not Aboriginal and I do not have to suffer the consequences of any of those policies or systemic issues. So, it's easy enough for me to say I don't like being reminded of that. But all that to say that I think it's really important that I am being reminded of that, and I think it's really important that I learn more about my own history. I don't really know what else to say about that, so I'll finish that little rant there. I will update everyone on my thoughts about the books that I'm in the middle of in my wrap-up for December and January. And I am planning on making a review of Esme's Wish, so look out for that one. If you have any thoughts on any of the things that you saw in this vlog, please do comment below and let me know. I'd love to chat with you. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you next time.